S nimi alebo bez nich. S nami alebo proti nám.
Je to veľmi výnimočný rok.
Spolu moci. Teplo alebo teplejšie. Zostať alebo odísť. Tvoja voľba.
Dobrý večer, vítajte pri diskusii k filmom Prestaňte nás nakrúcať a Fonia, ktorá sa bude konať v anglickom jazyku, v ktorom budem aj pokračovať. Good evening, welcome all our viewers to our discussion about or following the two movies Fonia and Stop Filming Us, which you can also watch until tomorrow noon. We will be discussing today humanitarian help, development cooperation, the West in the global South, and also the depiction of these countries. It is my pleasure to welcome here today, first from a distance, Lina Zacher, who is a multi-talented producer and creator of the movie Fonia. Welcome. Good evening, Lina.
Hello.
I would also like to welcome you today, these two ladies, Lucia Kiš, who is the director of the Slovak Agency for International Development Cooperation. Good evening.
Good evening.
As well as Andrea Najviertová, the director of the NGO People in East Slovakia. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Frederika Halasová, and I will be leading this discussion tonight. So let's start about the movie Fonia, Lina. First of all, it really is an amazing movie, nothing I have seen ever before. So thank you for doing this. It was very interesting to watch it. I would like to ask you first, how did you even come up with the idea to take the cameras and give them into the hands of these boys in Madagascar?
First, I have been in Madagascar a long time ago, and just through accident, maybe I got to this prison, and actually I facilitated a small theater project with a friend of mine there. And already then I kind of experienced this very strong energy, this creativity with the minors, with the youth minors, and I somehow wanted to show this. I wanted to come back to this place. Then after 5 years, I came back, and and I did this film project where actually the youth minors themselves show or give a glimpse into their world. And like I said, my intention was to kind of transport this energy, this creativity, this drive to make something, to do something on their own. So this was actually the idea behind that project.
You gave them the cameras, you taught them how to shoot the movie. Were you ever there while they were shooting? In the background?
Yes, I was there the whole time. But yeah, luckily, and this was actually the idea of the project, the boys, the minors took over. I mean, there was a small introduction phase, like a workshop where I taught them how to use the camera, how to compose, how to frame, and all that. But shortly after that, the minors took over, and I more or less became an assistant. When there was low batteries, I would run, something to do. I would just help out, but the main work the youth minors did, and this was also great to see that they that the idea worked, that they actually took over and it became their project. Yes.
It's actually really a great example of something we will be talking about here today, and it is giving the power of depiction to the people that we are talking about and showing. And I must say, you did a good job, because I really wasn't sure whether you were there or not. I just think I saw your hand in 1 second in the movie, but I wasn't sure if that was you or not. And it really felt like they took over, as you say. Mostly, I think the most powerful was RSD, was the his name in the beige shirt.
Yes. There was, I mean, maybe you also see in the film that besides this very strong bond between the youth minors, there is also this kind of hierarchy, or, well, there are minors which have more power, let's say it like that. And one of them is this Mr. RSN, and he is kind of the lead figure in this film. Yeah, it's true. He kind of also leads the audience through the film. Yeah.
Yeah, RSN, sorry, I made a mistake there. I would be quite curious whether you came with some expectations into this whole process, and whether they changed during the shooting, or on the other hand, they got fulfilled, or maybe whether the boys taught you something, because you taught them a lot about how to shoot a documentary about their lives and a movie, but what did they teach you?
Well, maybe two things. I think one thing that I taught the minors, but at the same time, they also taught me, because I was in the end also astonished that it can turn like this. Well, actually, what I want to say is what I think I taught them was observing with the camera, to wait, to actually put the focus maybe on small things, or on first sight not the most significant things, maybe, like to actually search your environment for interesting things that you want to capture, and to actually observe and wait, which is first a very difficult thing to do. And then what happened was that over time, the youth minors and also me, we kind of experienced this very familiar surrounding, this prison which they live in, and they this is their environment every single day. It doesn't change, and it seems to be boring at first sight, right? Because, well, it's always there. To kind of experience this familiar surrounding through different eyes, or through the camera lens, with also a different perspective, to kind of spot new things, to kind of learn that even this environment can be interesting somehow. So this was very, very interesting also for me. And besides that, I mean, overall, what I experienced there, or what the minors taught me, was how to be part of their community, how they care for each other, how this cohesion works, how they stick together, how they help each other, and how they also help me, because in the end I was somehow part of their community. I really, I was an accepted part of them. So I I really got myself immersed into their world and their small microcosm, and it felt very good. Actually, it was a great experience. I mean, I have to how to say. I mean, a very different experience, and there are so many aspects. But in the end, I just had the feeling I don't want to go. I feel like home. Well, it sounds strange maybe to you now, but this was how it was actually.
Well, yeah, it was a present for minors, but I can absolutely imagine that you felt home with the boys. Thank you very much. Andrea, you from a humanitarian point of view, or from the point of view of the director of your humanitarian organization, how do you see giving the power into the hands of locals, of people that you are helping maybe with your organization?
Mm-hmm. I think that's absolutely crucial in the field of humanitarian aid or development cooperation that we work in. We often hear critics on whether it's actually working, development or humanitarian aid, whether it's not doing more harm or good. But I think if the intervention, if the aid is provided in a way with respect, listen to what they need, where you actually ask them, okay, what do you need? What type of help do you need? That's where you can see the changes and the empowerment of the communities. And that's where you can also then get the feedback that it really makes sense.
This is actually something that was also in the movie Stop Filming Us, where the director asked for critique, whether he is being neo-colonialist in his approach. And they told him in Congo, give biscuits to children, but they didn't ask you for them. They didn't ask you for food. And this was actually the main point, that we should give people what they ask for. And it was very nice that they told him maybe they just wanted to talk to you. Maybe they came to you because they wanted to ask you about your life somewhere abroad, and you just gave them biscuits right away. So this is very interesting. Is this something that changed over the years? Because the criticism comes from something, maybe from the previous years of humanitarian aid. So is it something new in the approach, or was it always like this, that we should ask?
Mm-hmm. I think the sector has changed a lot in the past decades, past years. I mean, when you had 10 years, 20 years ago, the sector was basically humanitarian aid meant a group of are motivated to go and help. They go into the car, they take some stuff with them, food, and they drive 1,000 kilometers to provide aid, to provide help. I mean, in the end, also people in need was the establishment was the result of such an action of motivated journalists. However, in the course of the years, the work has changed a lot. One of the turning points was maybe the international intervention, for example, in Rwanda after the genocide, where the international community undertook a big evaluation on what has gone wrong from the side of the international organizations and actors and NGOs. And the report really established that there was a lack of coordination, that NGOs were not as professional, that there was no coherence, that it was not timely, that it didn't respond to the local needs. And as a result, the many standards were developed. And today, humanitarian aid or development work is a profession. I think both me and Lucia actually studied it, and most of the people in our department studied a full master on it. And it's a profession that you work on all life, your career, develop your skills.
Thank you. Yeah.
And if I can just add to what Andrea said, giving the power to the people and really asking what they need, and having kind of an approach from the bottom that is paired with the needs of the country, of the community, of the individual, is very important, because it leads to ownership. And ownership is crucial if you want your projects or your programs or your intervention to continue in the long term, because without it you will not have sustainability. And maybe another way how to give power to the people is in the way that you basically ask them, yes, like you said, but also invite them to the decision-making table. When there's being decisions on a project or intervention being made, you ask them what they think about it, and have them maybe in a steering committee of a project or something like that.
Is this something that Slovagate considers important, for example, when deciding which projects to give funding to? Is it something that they consider, whether the projects are involving the local communities or whether they are just looking from the top?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, of course. We have a 5-year strategy. There's priority countries. Right there, and basically that is their job, to look whether the interventions that we plan are in line with the local needs. And also, I mean, Slovagate, if you picture it, there's many tools how we do it. We have large projects, we have small projects, we have different activities, and we also have a tool, for example, micro grants, which is directly correlated to the needs, and it's a very flexible tool. So, 19 pandemic outbreak, we cooperated with the embassies, and they were able to identify the needs, and right away we could send the financial contributions directly where it was most needed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I would like to just also tell our viewers that you can pose questions too. I forgot to tell you in the beginning. You can use the application Slido and the hashtag help to ask questions, and we will surely find time for them at the end. Lina, I would like to ask you, maybe you are a filmmaker and creative producer, but how do you see the humanitarian help from the outside, from some other point of view?
Well, yeah, very difficult topic. Also, before before I started making films, actually, like I said, it's also not my first time in Madagascar. Actually, maybe my 5th or 6th or 7th. I cannot count any more time in Madagascar. And of course, I got in touch with many organizations. I even worked in a lot of them. And how to say? Yeah, I also see very big problems like the ones you already mentioned. It's very important that you include the ones in need, the ones the help is addressed to, and to actually, I think it's very important not to only include them and to ask them, but also to give them responsibility. I think once you give responsibility to the right people, to the people that need to solve the problem, I think the relation to this program or project or whatever it is that you're trying to do changes or shifts. I mean, I learned with my own project that once you hand over responsibility, once you give this project maybe partly or even the whole thing to somebody else, they identify with this project, and it is important for them that the outcome is good, right? I mean, I think a big problem that we always experience in development aid is that we come, or Western countries, Western ambassadors, let's say, come to those countries and they try to start something, initiate something, and at some point they go back to the West, and how does the project continue, right? So I think we really need this this identification with this one project that you do, like this will of the people to continue to bring it to a great outcome. I think this is very big task, right?
Really is. Andrea, you as People in Need works with many local partners in the countries where they perform, and I think they don't have many Slovaks coming there and taking over the offices. Is this why you do so, to engage the locals?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I wanted to already add in the previous question that there's a very strong push towards localization. So also when we as a Slovak NGO work in development countries, we mostly work in cooperation with local NGOs who are based there, who have developed relationships there, who know their beneficiaries, the people they work with. And then you have other ways of working where international NGOs do work abroad, but they do a lot of local employees. So there definitely is a trend. But also, as Lina mentioned, there are also problems in how the international cooperation is set up. It's very much project-based. There's a lot of pressure on bringing results, on logical frameworks, and sometimes the things we work on, they can't be achieved within a one-year project. I mean, you can build a well within a one-year project, working on empowering people, on changing attitudes, changing behaviors. This is a long-term process that cannot be like quickly achieved within a one-year project. So I find that in a way that the sector has professionalized, we sometimes lose these soft aspects of the work and the effort it takes. Mm-hmm. That it's a long-term commitment also with the local partners, local communities.
Lucia, Andrea mentioned before that you both studied that this field. It's really something that has developed over the years. Is there maybe sometimes a difference between the theory and the practice right in the field?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's a great added value that I think we've studied it. I mean, at the agency there are people who've studied it, and I think it contributes to like a higher understanding in the way how we formulate then the rules and maybe conditions. So for example, in the calls for proposals that we publish every year, there is a condition that when implementing bodies such as People in Need implement of the actions. Mm-hmm. And of course, that leads to us and to donor accountability and all the principles that we are by.
We mentioned the bottom to the top approach. We mentioned local partners. What could be some other aspects that make humanitarian aid or development cooperation good and effective?
Humanitarian aid, humanitarian aid, the bottom line, which everybody has to go by, is the humanitarian law, and Slovakia abides by it because it ratified the Geneva Conventions, and also we have these governance, good governance principles, humanitarian principles. So it needs to be neutral, impartial. It needs to be really focused on the most vulnerable. It needs to be independent. And it needs to be based on humanity.
Thank you. Andrea, do you see something in the field, maybe some other rules of good humanitarian help that apply that are maybe not in the theory?
That are applied. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, the theory is also advanced. I studied in a university where it was interesting, where we learned about how it's not working, we were taught a very critical approach about all these development theories and how the coordination is not working. And then you go to the field and you actually see that the coordination is not working. You see that it's not so straightforward. I think many people who enter the field enter with good work and helping communities, and that they will be well received, and that everything will go fine. And then you go to the field and you encounter inefficiencies, people not responding, you encounter corruption, limitations by politics. So I think in the practice it's hard work, it takes a lot of problem solving. But for me, then seeing people being empowered, people getting shelter, getting food, getting access to water, for me, that's a proof that it makes sense. And that's, for me, a reason why I'm still in the sector and why it makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. In the movie, we see that in Congo, at least the movie shows it, white people are not welcome, and the citizens are not happy to see the white filmmaker. Andrea, from your experience in the countries where people in need is working, are they welcome there?
Mm-hmm. I mean, for us, it's one of the principles when we decide on whether we will do work in a country or not, is whether we are welcome. So also, for example, if you have sudden natural disasters, one of the criteria is also the question whether local people can solve the situation by themselves, or whether they need support also from Slovakia. So if there will be a tornado in the USA, we will probably not fly in there to because they have the capacities. So, for example, I was in Kenya last year, and we had an amazing receival. You were with me, and it was very inspirational to also observe the work of the people there, to see how they work with the communities, how they engage in long-term empowerment. So, yeah.
I must say, I had an interesting conversation a few days ago with a friend, Slovak journalist Magda Rojo, who was for a few months in Oaxaca in Mexico. And this is a very interesting community, which is very independent from the rest of Mexico or from the rest of the world in the sense. And they don't want capitalism coming into their community. They don't want the Western influence to come there. And this is a question, aren't we, or didn't we in the past, with the help and the humanitarian aid, also take the culture from the people that we were helping, or didn't we maybe influence them too much with our view of what is modern, what is good, what is functional?
I mean, definitely there's many theoretical explanations on how development was considered when it started after the Second World War. You had different modernization theories where some countries were regarded as underdeveloped, which had to be then developed by the already developed ones. Or, for example, very strong in Latin America was the dependence theory, which states that the lower development is actually a result of the colonialism and then now of the uneven relationships in capitalism. So there's different approaches to explain how development is happening. Me personally, I like the one from Amartya Sen, a Nobel Prize winner, who sees development not in terms of GDP or economic growth, but sees development as advancing the freedoms of people and the capabilities to decide whether they can access healthcare, whether they can nurture their families. Because we are often, to draw a parallel also with the work we do with Roma communities in Slovakia, sometimes also people ask us, okay, but are you not destroying the culture of Roma communities when you work with them? They're free spirit. And for me, it's not culture or funny to not have wood to heat the house in the winter, or not to have soap, not to have food to feed your family, not to have clothes to send your children to school. So for me, development then is about the freedom to choose if you wanna enjoy these rights, that you have the opportunity to, because nobody has chosen to be born in a poor settlement.
Lucia?
Yes, and just to add maybe to your question, I think it's also about the ownership, and it's a mutual process. It's development cooperation. It's I mean, we have the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, and it's the 17 SDGs, and the SDG 17 is partnership. So it has to be done in partnership. So like Andrea said, if they don't want to receive the help, we will go elsewhere. I mean, it's a mutual process. It's based on partnership, and when you talked about encroachment or like imposing our values or culture on the partner countries, I mean, it's in the context of the EU or EU member states, aid is. It's sometimes there's a conditionality that basically. Human rights needs to be abided by. And this can be interpreted in many ways. For example, we have a project that's concentrated on training women, for example, women and girls, and giving them training, giving them education leads to their empowerment in terms of maybe they'll set up a business, maybe they'll become self-sufficient, and in that way they become independent. And maybe this is not in line with their culture, and that's okay. But basically that is the conditionality that comes with EU development aid. That can be maybe classified as Western. We also have donors, maybe for example from the East, large donors like China, that come to some countries in Africa and build large infrastructure projects, railways or highways, and there are no conditionalities like that. There are no kind of rules that come with the aid. But then they build a highway through a national park, and they don't think about the consequences on the environmental level or on the social level, on the communities, and bring their own workers. And I think Lina mentioned that as well. It's important that it's done together with the community, because that leads to, again, sustainability and everything. And acceptance also, and giving the responsibility kind of to their hands.
I actually see Lina's project in this very important because, and correct me if I'm mistaken, Lina, but I think that if you would leave, just give the tools to the kids in the prison and then leave and not care anymore, I don't think they would be able to create the movie as it is and to spread it also to other countries.
Well, yes. Maybe I also thought a lot of times actually about my role, which is also very interesting. Am I the initiator? Am I the filmmaker? Am I the curator? Am I maybe the distributor, like you mentioned? I mean, actually, I try to now spread what they have done, or of course, I also edited the film, so I have a big part in this project. But and actually, I cannot really answer this question. What my role is, but yes, I think it is a very good, like maybe my project is an example of a collective work, right? I mean, they kind of need me because, well, I would go to festivals and the film gets shown, and yeah, the first way I kind of brought this whole project there. I initiated this whole project. But on the other hand, I mean, it wouldn't have worked without them also, right? I mean, maybe it's an example of how it works together. But I mean, for the whole discussion, I don't really know if you can compare some kind of film project like mine with humanitarian or development ad. It's maybe I give this question back to you. I mean, it's interesting, but me, of course, I never had the intention to go there to actually bring big change or something like that, right? I didn't come there to change the living conditions, which are really, really bad. I mean, maybe you see in the film that it's not a good place to live. There's much to do, really, a lot. But none of that was my... I mean, I didn't focus on those things, right? I mean, for me, I didn't want to, how to say, I was like a silent observer. This was role. I didn't go into it and change things or whatever. So, yeah.
You feel in that role, didn't you have the urge to do something to ameliorate somehow maybe the living conditions?
Yeah, this is actually a good question in so many ways. Of course, you feel like you want to interact, right? You want to contribute something or do something, but and also actually not only living conditions or also the way, for example, that hierarchy before, which is really not fair. I mean, you really also experience such harsh living conditions, not only in terms of facility and everything, but also that there is people who have power, especially the ones who are in the prison for a long time already. They have like a high position, right? And then others that have to clean up the shit, right? So it's also when you try to, you think like, wow, I have to say something. I have to kind of mediate. I have to find a solution, make it more fair, right? But for me, I really, in this project, I really stepped back because I didn't want to influence them, because what I wanted to show is really this place, and I really wanted to show it with all its facets, with all its everything that is about it, right? So it was a conscious decision not to go inside and change things. So but it was hard. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and also maybe to add to that, it is difficult when you hear about the children's stories, about the children's backgrounds, and not to value and not to not to sorry, my English sometimes. Not to decide, okay, this, because some of the things that they have done are really, really bad, and usually you would really ask yourself, is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing here? I'm giving them this opportunity, although they have done something very, very bad. How does this fit together, actually? So you're always in this evaluation mindset, right? And again, you have to step back and see everybody as human beings and not as detainees who have different backgrounds, but giving all of them the same chance to participate. So in many different ways, it was difficult to step back. Yes.
I do believe that when I saw the moment when the boys asked Gato, the other boy, whether he thinks about whether he thought about hurting little girls when they were in the homes that they were where they were stealing, and when he talked about the fact that maybe some boys stayed behind and raped girls in those homes, or that they killed the people who were defending their families, that was quite hard. It must have been hard to not judge, because of course all of the boys also have their background and their own stories which led them to such actions, perhaps.
Yes, this was the word, judging. Yeah, not to judge. This is very difficult, but it's actually a good exercise, because I think we should less judge and observe more and learn, always learn. Also for any kind of project, also especially development or humanitarian aid, I think we have to really, there's so much that we don't know, and I even think that we cannot learn in university or read in books or see on TV or even learn in that kind of. We have to, we always have to, experience and learn. I think we've never learned out. We have never learned enough, especially about culture. Also, especially for the case in Madagascar, I have experienced that this is it makes such a big difference. I mean, the way of thinking is so different from our way of thinking. I lately a paper about the perception of time in different cultures, and it was really like a wow, because suddenly I understood that I still don't know enough. There is so much that we don't know.
Yeah, there surely is. This is also something that is to be seen in the movie Stop Filming Us, where you see a fight on the street, or to better say, they are hurting some person on the street, and of course the Belgic filmmaker also put his camera on this, and he films it. And later on, his Congolese colleagues or friends tell him that, why would you show that? It's so negative. We wouldn't film that. For us, it's normal. It's normal to see this. They called it correction of bad behavior. And this was very interesting to hear that they think really absolutely differently. And this is for me interesting in humanitarian help. Is this something that you encounter, that you come there with an idea how it could work, and then you find out in the field that due to their different perceptions, this will not work here? Mm-hmm. Andrea.
So, I mean, for example, when I started working in human rights and development, I thought like, okay, I will work 10 years in the Balkans. I met some colleagues who spent every year in a different country, and I said, no, this is not how I want to work, because you need to go deep, you need to learn the languages, you need to make friends to truly understand the culture, the mechanisms that are in place. But now, obviously, my position is different. We work in many countries. What I found this experience has taught me is that to every place you go, you need to go with an open mind, the willingness to listen and to see what's there. Maybe what you learn by time and by seeing poverty in different settings, conflict in different settings, is that maybe you will not be as surprised anymore by the ridiculous or by the very different things that are happening, by the shocking things that are happening, because there are always some, really shock you on how it's different, how it's possible that something like this is happening. So I think it's really important to really be aware of going with an open mind, an open heart, an open ear to the places to talk to people.
Mm-hmm. Lucia, would you like to add something?
I completely agree. Having the willingness to listen to the needs of the partner country is really important.
Thank you. We do have a few more minutes and we do have 2 questions, so I think it would be right in our time. Question for Lucia. Based on what did the Slovak decide to support specific countries like Kosovo, Afghanistan, etc. in their development? So maybe based on what you decide which countries to support.
Mm-hmm. So the Slovak Agency for International Development Cooperation is a budgetary organization of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs adopts always a strategy for the next 5 years, based on the needs and based also on foreign policy priorities. So for the next 5 years, we have a strategy, and the top priority countries are Kenya, Moldova, and Georgia. Overall, there are 24 countries, but these are the top 3 where we also have a development diplomat. But we also work in countries list, and that's the least developed countries, and it's basically countries with a low gross national income.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Andrea, this is a hard question, I think. What is one project or program you have implemented in the world and that you regret the most, and why? So I think I would change it a bit. Do you regret some project or program that you have implemented? Are they in people in need or from your other experiences beforehand?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let me think. I mean, the interesting thing is when I was leaving one organization, the donor said, we liked working with you because you also told us about all the problems that you are encountering. And when we read reports where everything is fine, we know that it's not fine. So, I mean, in every project, there are some challenges, some situations that you need to address. But I think so far all of them were meaningful to me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And one more question for you. How has this work changed you personally?
Mm-hmm.
And has it?
It definitely has. I mean, I spent 7 years in Kosovo, and coming back to Slovakia, I'm really grateful about the great quality of life we have here. The services we can access. So I think, and also traveling to hotspots like conflict-prone areas in the Philippines, Rakhine in Myanmar, you really get to appreciate the welfare or the peace and security that we live in.
I actually like this question because in the movie Stop Filming Us, there was a very important point about learning and about learning from the communities we work for and from the countries. So maybe this will be my final question also for you, Lucia. What did your work or what did the people that you worked with during their years teach you?
Also to be grateful for the good for the great opportunities that we have in Slovakia, and to listen. And I think even in Slovakia we have, as I mentioned, different tools, and one of them is we send or we support volunteers so that they go to developing countries and have the experience on their first hand. They can go for as short as 3 months or as long as 1 year, and I think it's really important that they experience it really firsthand, that they live there, that they become part of the community, and then bring the understanding back to Slovakia, because that brings tolerance also in Slovakia to global problems, that actually we live in one world, and it doesn't matter in Kenya or in Slovakia, the difference is the opportunities. And I think that's why development assistance or development cooperation and humanitarian, because it gives the people the opportunities for a better life.
Thank you very much. Lina, we don't have much more time, but just maybe very shortly, what are your next plans? Because I really loved your movie and I'm very curious what is next.
Oh, wow. I also don't know, actually. I have a project in the Philippines. I was there in the beginning or until the beginning of April, but then I also went back to Germany because, situation was very difficult because of the virus. But it will be, I'm also excited, also don't know yet what the outcome brings, but it is also participatory project with the indigenous refugee children from the Philippines, from Mindanao, actually, from the south. And they live in Manila inside a refugee camp, and they fight for their right to return in their villages, because, the Philippines, they have a lot of mining, and a lot of the indigenous people, they get pushed out of their communities because of those mining companies. So this is next project.
I will be very much looking forward. We are working in the Philippines, so maybe there will be some cooperation in the future. Who knows?
Maybe, yeah.
Thank you very much, ladies, for this discussion. Although I must say that after watching the movies, I was a bit sad that we don't have somebody local, somebody from those countries who could speak with us on this topic, but maybe that will be an inspiration for the future. Both movies are watchable until tomorrow noon, and we will watch the trailers after this discussion, so stay tuned. And I also just want to tell you that you can watch all the discussions also on Bodka TV. So thank you once again. Thank you to our viewers, and have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Lina.
Greetings from Germany.
Basta tapa-tapa pera mencari ya, kan? Alô, za sarpiaro, alô, isa, rua telo, isa, rua telo. Tapa. Udah nih hantut kata dia dengan ciro codo dan shode. Ternyata apa ti kamera ti? Upia rusan sih kedua. Era pound tuition. Qui a pris cette photo? C'est un local ou bien un étranger?
Pour moi, d'abord, cette photo, c'est un insulte.
Et pour vous, c'est un Africain ou bien un occidental qui a pris la photo?
C'est un occidental.
Les images qui parlent de Goma, il n'y avait pas beaucoup de vérité dedans. Parce que des gens venaient faire des images avec une seule idée négative.
On les représente toujours et il n'a pas pris ce temps de se représenter lui-même.
Quand je travaille avec les ONG, je leur donne ce à quoi ils s'attendent.
Yoris, il dit je vais faire un film sur... Nous, on n'est pas en train de le filmer. Qui décide de quoi filmer?
The question is, did we do anything neo-colonial in the last 2 weeks?
L'effet de donner aux enfants qui demandent des biscuits, ça pose question, ça.
C'est une biscuit, no?
Did they tell you that they needed food? No.
C'est ça.
Should all the NGOs and UN leave?
La situation va changer quand nous, la jeunesse, nous aurons à décider de notre propre avenir.
People come rushing thinking the problem is here, but actually the problem is not here. Deux gens qui ne sont pas africains ici. Et ils veulent faire un film sur l'Afrique. Est-ce que vous pensez qu'ils peuvent faire ce film ou ils peuvent arrêter, aller leurs choses et rentrer chez eux?